Finally, we have finally made it to the end of the original trilogy of the Pirates movies. And thankfully they only made 3 Pirates movies, so this will be the last installment. Wait, what? They made another one? Don't make me talk about On Stranger Tides, please. You don't like On Stranger Tides? That's the next review. Now, we just need to talk about At World's End and just end this big finale with a big finale. Hi, I'm jacobtsuggs and welcome back to another video. And this is the 3rd installment in my Pirates of the Caribbean retrospective kind of series review, so that being said, let's talk about At World's End. And in prep, I did watch all of these movies the night before, so I'm ready to talk about it. And I just want to mention real fast that I take notes for all of these reviews, and these are all my notes for At World's End. There's a ton of them. 1, because it's a big movie. 2, there's some stuff that I like, but 3, this is the one movie to where I'm like, it's okay. It's not great like the other 2 in my opinion, but it's certainly not a bad movie per se. It's just got the same issue that I think a lot of 3rd installments have, and that's too many plot lines going on at once. Typically in the 3rd installment of a film, you have to have a lot of exposition to carry out, you know, the stuff that you've established in the previous 2. And sometimes that's better said than done, and unfortunately this is one of those cases. And right off the bat, you kind of know what you're getting into in that this movie isn't as good as the other 2 because it starts off in this really bizarre way. The movie starts off with a child hanging. What? I mean, the other 2 films had clever openings, but I don't know if starting off your film with a child being hung in a public square is the best way to go about a family pirates adventure film. That's just kind of pushing the line for me, but fun fact, you can see the kid's braces if you look close enough. That being said though, this movie does open with a bang afterwards with this giant Singapore action scene. And it's pretty clever and you have some really cool moments, but like I've said, this movie has so much going on, and right off the bat, it's hard to keep track of what's happening, who's with who, what's going on, because it's just one big giant battle between 3 different people that you're just kind of stuck in the middle of. And if you hadn't seen the other 2 films prior to this, you're going to be really lost. And even if you have seen the other 2 films, it still takes a while to get back into the swing of things, but this movie doesn't allow you to do that right away. And it's also really weird for me to see Elizabeth Swann as like the swashbuckling pirate hero and eventually pirate king. Because Elizabeth Swann isn't that type of character and she hasn't been established as that type of character in the other 2 films. Granted, we did see her do a few things in Dead Man's Chest, but okay, she was on the Black Pearl for like 20 minutes and on that other ship where she made the dress fly for like 15 minutes or maybe a couple days. Fact of the matter is, I don't really care, but the main point here is that she's not that type of character, but they're trying to make her that type of character in the final installment. I mean, you could say this is character development, but if you're asking me, I just think the movie's trying to make her more relevant in a film where you have all this stuff going on. What should we do with this character? Well, let's make her a hero because relevance. It's just something else in this plot, and there's a lot going on. I will say that the Pirate Lords and Shipwreck Cove is really awesome to see. Once again, like the series has already established, you've got a really cool design, and it's cool seeing like all of the pirate brethren come together. That being said, I just love the idea of all of these pirates kind of banding together to defeat an armada and Davy Jones. And how could I forget, my favorite part in this entire movie is when that one pirate lord stands up, he looks really intimidating, and Hansa, we shall go to war! I love it so much. It's so great! Let's talk about Sao Fang, because he's a really interesting character in this movie. I like the Singapore Pirates aspect in this movie, but once again, he's kind of wasted because he's killed off after making Elizabeth captain. It's almost like that was his only purpose for being in the movie. I mean, I think he's an awesome character and he could have been a really cool pirate character, but he's just wasted and killed off by the Flying Dutchman. Once again, another thing that 3rd installments kind of have trouble with. But since we're talking about villains, let's talk about the two that really matter. And that's Davy Jones and Cutler Beckett. I really love the idea that Cutler Beckett is basically using Davy Jones's heart to control him to do these things that he really doesn't want to do. Like we see that Davy Jones had to kill the Kraken, his pet, and something that he really loved, all because Beckett told him to do it. And I think combining these two unlikely allies and seeing Davy Jones in these royal settings really makes for a unique experience while watching this movie. It's kind of like Grand Moff Tarkin and Darth Vader, because Grand Moff Tarkin in A New Hope was basically the guy that gave orders to Darth Vader, and Darth Vader was more the muscle for Grand Moff Tarkin and the Death Star. In this case, Beckett is Tarkin, and Davy Jones is Darth Vader. I love that kind of stuff. I think it's really cool seeing two bad guys work together when they don't want to work together. If anything, this movie has incredible visuals just like the previous two because Gore Verbinski came back to direct this one, and he delivered quite the finale. The effects are still great, the action shot well, and the action scenes are bigger and more exciting in my opinion than the previous two. Third installments have to boost stuff up. They have to really raise the stakes to make for a satisfying conclusion. And this movie does that, like that really memorable Maelstrom fight scene thing with the two ships going around the whirlpool. And that scene's exciting because, once again, everybody's kind of fighting for their own reasons, with one big cause overarching all of those little reasons. And I can get how that can become a little bit convoluted, but at the same time, I just found it really enjoyable to watch. Not to mention that really cool up is down sequence to where they have to tip the Black Pearl over to escape Davy Jones's locker. And I'll tell you right now, the first act of this movie, kinda rough. Second act is much better, and the third act is a really fitting finale, in my opinion. But let's talk about Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow again, because this is the movie to where I can see how Jack Sparrow started to get on some people's nerves. There's no denying that Jack Sparrow is a great character and was good in the first two films, but typically when you ask people their opinion on Jack Sparrow, around the time of this movie, opinions started to change, and maybe for good reason. Johnny Depp is still good, but the problem is that the reins have been let loose a little bit, and he's taking the character a bit too far with some creative choices. And I think that also goes to Gore Verbinski and the screenwriters, but Depp's unpredictability just kind of fades into all of that, and not in a good way. And that's seen primarily in the opening sequence where the whole crew of Jack Sparrows are on the Black Pearl in Davy Jones's locker, and they're fighting over a peanut. That's the opening scene in this movie, I'm not even joking with you. Okay, it's a little bit funny, but I don't think it works for the character. It's just a bit too silly and too on the edge. But after you get through that first act, which is kinda rough, you finally get some smooth sailing. Pun intended! The payoff is so worth it. But the problem is that we have to sit through all of that setup. And setup's not a bad thing, but your setup should be as satisfying as your payoff. There's a ton of talking and not enough showing, but when we do see the stuff that we need to see, it's really awesome. And this movie is good, don't get me wrong. In fact, I had a lot of fun watching it last night, especially the ending. But that first hour, it was a little bit hard for me. And finally, I want to talk about this because this is the final thing in my notes, because it gets on my nerves a little bit. I really like the character of Will Turner, but he's a total tool in this movie. He's always picking and choosing sides. He's with Beckett and Jones, then he's with Elizabeth, then he's with Jack Sparrow. He's everywhere. I get Will Turner's motivations. He's trying to save his dad, and that's pretty noble, but he keeps siding with all of the wrong people, and after a while you just start to think to yourself, why should I be rooting for this guy? Okay, look. This movie isn't perfect. It's kinda convoluted and a little bit complicated to understand at times. That being said though, I think this movie is actually well worth your time. It takes a while to get going, but when it gets going, it goes, and it just doesn't stop until the end of the movie, and that's extremely satisfying. It's everything that you want from a Pirates movie in the third act. Thank you guys so much for watching. What do you think of Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End? Do you love it? Do you not like it? Just let me know down in the comments below. I know we're going to get a really mixed response. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm FrameByFrame, remember the name, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.